the future generations will forget this knowledge. So we got a resurgence of information coming out, and this is in light of many men being raised by essentially, you know, female educators, women, feminine men, that kind of thing. So all of the knowledge that they would know and learn from becoming or for becoming masculine, masculinized, things like that, would essentially be dumped and dropped out, replaced with this kind of subdued knowledge of existence, which is kind of less than ideal, less than optimal for the average man. But the knowledge that the average man is learning right now, or at least in a smaller amounts, via the via the whole red pill manosphere knowledge, learning the true nature of women, the true aspect of human nature, the darker sides of human nature that their mothers aren't courageous enough to teach them, and that their fathers were too cowardly to actually speak of. Whether the father ran out on the family or whether the father was just this subdued. It seems like guys kind of live in two or three, several different realities, right? You have the guys who their fathers, perhaps maybe the fathers were masculine to a fault, but they ran out on the mother. But then the mother was kind of the only source of the guy's knowledge of women. But then you have situations where the father was there, but the father was this subdued, feminine kind of goes along with what the wife says. It wasn't very masculine. He was, in a way, a lot of times the fathers were raised by women themselves, and they weren't very masculine, right? And you can kind of feel when someone is like that, when someone is masculine. It's very obvious. But a lot of times, um, if if the son is raised by this kind of man, he can't really, he kind of looks at woman as this pedestalized creature that's just worthy of praise just for being a woman, right? Respect becomes this thing that is due to her because of her mere existence, which that kind of man will get trashed and destroyed by the average woman. He'll get ignored. He's gonna end up being very superfluous to the average woman. But that's kind of the situation we're running into, is that a lot of guys were lied to by their mothers about the nature, about the reality of the world, about the reality of women. And the future generations, the guys who are just learning this now, have the responsibility of teaching their sons so that their sons can understand how to become a leader and to actually become masculine, how to be, well, I guess the situation would just be that they're naturally masculine because they're masculine creatures, right? But then that he would know not to inhibit that natural growth. Um, but all of the things that we're learning about women, just in this sphere, especially that they're very hive minded, that they kind of just, you know, in the mating world, like if they essentially, a lot of the things that people don't like, right? Like they hate single men. They only like men that are in relationships. They want to get in relationships with, this is a lot of them. I'm not speaking for every woman, but they don't like guys that aren't in relationships. Those guys are kind of like disgusting to them. They like guys who already have like the scent of women on them. Um, those are the guys that they're interested in. But then also they, they're very chameleon like. They're also look at love as like this calculation as opposed to just something that happens naturally. um they're very pragmatic, blah blah blah. So all of these little tiny lessons and things that you learn as a guy, especially how to deal with breakups and things like that, Um, Even though you were kind of clothesline and you didn't see this stuff coming initially, you're going to teach, or the goal is that you teach future generations of men through your sons and through their sons how to actually deal with these things. And then that's what's going to change the landscape. That's what's going to get rid of like feminism and all these other stupid movements and stuff that are like plaguing people. Like, um, it's the sons and the men that are dealing with the hardships created by our fathers. We're the ones that have a responsibility of teaching our children, our sons, and then our daughters, demonstrating to them what a masculine creature actually looks like and acts like. But then here's the sad part. Even after all of this, even after all of this knowledge, this renaissance of information that's kind of being fully presented to the world, despite how unattractive and unnice and unpolitically correct it is to the average woman's sensibilities. The truth of the matter is, the future generations will forget this knowledge. They'll forget the truths. Somehow, they're going to forget that this was actually a thing. And we're going to end up repeating the cycle over and over again, where you're going to have like the strong woman archetype, and you're going to have the women and essentially overtaking the man, emasculating the man, that kind of thing. Even though we got the information now, the future generations will forget the knowledge, and it'll end up in a cycle again and again. We'll forget what we had. We'll forget that marriage was actually good, and we'll think that we have to liberate one side or the other, and it'll mess things up, and then we'll go right back around in circles again. But yeah, I actually kept it short this time. Yes, sort of.